On today's show, ESPN's John Buccigross joins the show to discuss the injury update to Alexander Barkov and the lack of discipline for Leon Draisaitl, what the Panthers PK has done to stop Connor McDavid, and what adjustments should the Florida Panthers be looking for from the Oilers.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Wednesday, June 12th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at MondoMan12, follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. So, Florida Panther fans, it is an off day pod with 2 days in between games 2 and 3. We decided to maybe let a little bit of cooler heads prevail from the time of how game 2 ended for the Panthers and the Oilers, with still questions about Alexander Barkov's availability for game 3, but which we had an update, which we'll discuss more with John Buccigross. But going back to Bucci, it's been almost 3 years since the last time he had appeared. But at that time that he had appeared, ESPN had not had the rights back to the NHL to broadcast their games yet. So a lot has changed from then until now, which has made this sport so much more marketable, and the ratings are up. So can't wait for you guys to listen to that. So without further ado, let's get into our conversation between myself and John Buccigross of ESPN. And now, pleased to have joined the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast on today's edition of the show. He is a voice that you have heard plenty of times on the national airwaves of ESPN. He is John Buccigross. John, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you here. I mean, we had you here prior to the ESPN getting the rights back, and it's great to see how everything has come to fruition since ESPN has had it back. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Armando. You look marvelous. That's a reference you're probably way too young for, but people my age would understand
it. So right before we came on to the show, I mean, you also tweeted this about the ratings for game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final, 3.6 million viewers for ESPN, and up 46% from game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final. Just from the time that ESPN announced that they were getting the rights again to now, and just how much attention the NHL is getting. How pleased are you by the result of all the hard work that the worldwide leader has done?
Yeah, us and TNT, I think, have really brought a fresh perspective to the NHL, a big platform. You know, our ratings are up from last year because obviously we go back and forth with the Stanley Cup Final, and TNT had it last year, and you know their final is all on cable, where we put our games on ABC over the air, so we have a bigger audience and just more people are going to watch. So that percentage should continue to go up. Just because, like I said, cable versus over the air. So, yeah, it's been great. This is year 3 of the 7-year deal that we signed with the NHL, and TNT also signed. So we have 4 Stanley Cup Finals. They have 3. They've been doing the Winter Classic games. We've been doing the All-Star game and the Stadium Series games. Of course, next year with the Four Nations tournament, that will replace the All-Star game. Both of us will be doing some of those games. ESPN will have the gold medal game. I think ABC has a couple of games too as well over the weekend. So, hockey's in a good place. I think we're going to start to see more best-on-best international play, which the sport needs. Olympics, the Four Nations, which is kind of the leadoff. Olympic play, World Cup play between the NHL and the Players Association, that tournament they did a few years back, just one time. So we need these best players on the same team, Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon as teammates, as Canadians. It'd be good for the sport. I mean, I remember watching the World Cup final. What was that, a couple of years ago? Messi, and I hadn't really watched soccer in a long time, but that game alone got me exposed to some of those great players. Now, obviously, I know Messi was, and I've watched him before, but so that's what hockey can do around the world. So yeah, very exciting time for the hockey, for the NHL right now.
Yeah, and for ESPN getting that for them, just really great to market. And even you might even see some players in this Stanley Cup Final for in that Four Nations. Maybe you'll see a Barkov, a Kachuk there for sure. But
for sure.
But also transitioning to the Stanley Cup Final, we do have a little bit of an update about the status of Alexander Barkov. Paul Maurice did say during his press conference yesterday, after the game, saying it's not the Oprah Winfrey show. My opinion doesn't matter. But then also what happened after, the only discipline was the Sam Carrick slash on Dmitry Kulikov. But no fine, no suspension for Draisaitl. But I can't say I'm not surprised that there was no discipline for that. But also something about for also whenever there's like owners meetings or board of governors, they've spoken about over the years about just the length of suspensions, that they don't like the length of them for something egregious. But I'm not even saying the hit from Draisaitl was even too egregious to get a suspension for that. But also Paul Maurice said that if everything seems to progress, Barkov is good to go. So what was your initial reaction on the hit, and also something about what owners consistently talk to the league and the Players Association about discipline?
Yeah, what's really two separate issues is the regular season and the playoffs. They hate to suspend guys during the playoffs because the games are so valuable. If that was a regular season play, would we have seen Draisaitl suspended? I don't think so. It's close. Obviously, he went in pretty hard towards the upper body. He wasn't really concerned about the puck. Those guys are moving so fast, skating 20 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour, sometimes 23 miles an hour, and angles are changing, and Barkov's up and he's down. He's in, and obviously Draisaitl's going to hit him hard. He wants to hit him hard. How a slow-mo replay ends up looking like, he doesn't know it's going to happen just like that.
Yeah.
But in the end, he definitely launched towards the upper body. They're looking to make a big hit late in the game, and it got away from him. I'm surprised maybe he was at least maybe fined. But again, they felt like it's a hockey play that's went kind of bad, where you get your stick and you go under the guy's undercarriage. That was obviously on purpose, and we don't want the stick up in that area. So that's an easy one. When you really use the stick, that they're going to get you for that. When it's your body and you're not exactly sure where you're going to hit the guy, and did Barkov come down a little bit? Did he turn at the last minute? All that kind of stuff is hard to interpret. But it's being the postseason, they don't want it. They don't want to discourage physical play, and so I think that's why the body stuff is not going to get suspended, where sticks and chopping and stuff like that could.
Yeah, and also for it, my mindset also was, if I'm going to defend Sam Bennett, who was trying to shield that hand even when he was going to hit on Marchand, then I need to have that same energy if it's the other way around for me. That's the way I see it. And also, the Panthers were that frustrated bunch last year against the Vegas Golden Knights when they were starting to just get those frustration penalties. I mean, Matthew Tkachuk getting 3 10-minute misconducts in 2 games in Vegas too. So that's another thing for that. So sometimes the emotions get the best of you. Crazy to think. Yeah. We don't know if Barkov it's a jaw or a concussion, neither. So, but Barkov did go down after an elbow in Vegas against when Alec Martinez elbowed him. Wore that shield for 4 games, got 7 points. Him and Erod left that game early, and the Panthers still dominated. You know what the final score of that was?
What's that?
4-1, just like last night.
How about that?
So crazy to think, but that also gives us an opportunity to just the Evan Rodrigues conversation, the 3 goals in the 2 games for the Florida Panthers, and just how and also for Paul Maurice, once again pushing the right button. But it also goes back to what Paul Maurice has done in the first part of the season, giving Evan Rodrigues that opportunity to roll him with a line like Sasha Barkov, even though he was off of that line for a while. Paul Maurice knows that he has a good enough sample size with someone playing there, and also spoke about him being a Swiss Army knife on both sides. So what have your impressions been on just Evan Rodrigues, on an unlikely hero in the Stanley Cup Final?
Yeah, not real surprised. He's a very competent professional hockey player. I had him back in college at Boston University. He made it to the national championship game with Jack Eichel. They lost to Providence in 2015. But yeah, in the NHL, he's always been a little undervalued, I think, for whatever reason. No team has really stepped up and like overpaid him, like gave him like a really good, contract. And so it took him a while to get the deal again last year. Like you said, he can play up and down the line. It doesn't really change whether he plays first line, second line, third line, fourth line. He's the same guy. He can play with good players. He's got a good shot. He's always had a good shot. Face-offs, like you said, right, left. Just a good hockey player. So not surprised a guy like that will get a shot off, and sometimes they go in. That goal was a very low probability of going in. There was bodies in the way, a big goaltender obviously in front of a net, and somehow it just found him over the shoulder. So that was just it's almost a miraculous shot. But no, I'm not shocked for sure that Evan Rodrigues would come through like that. Just shocked, like I said, that no team really has ever stepped up and saw his value. Probably still undervalued. It's another great contract for the Panthers. They got a lot of them. That's another really good contract they have. That's one reason why they're so deep. They have a lot of guys who don't make what they probably should make. A couple overpaid guys. Ekblad's overpaid. Reinhart will probably become somewhat overpaid if they want to keep him. But for the most part, Barkov's about right where he should be. Tkachuk is probably a little underpaid. Forslin's very underpaid. Although that won't start till next year, so he's really underpaid this year.
Yeah.
He'll still be underpaid next year for his value as a player. Verhaeghe's probably a little underpaid paid right now. All their open market value on every player on the team, except Ekblad, he would go down probably, but every other player on the team would go up if they were all UFAs this summer, and everybody made their best offer, from the Rangers to the Penguins to whomever. Everyone in the Panthers would make more money, except probably Ekblad. That's why, and probably Bob. That's a big goaltender number. But I'm kind of excited about the Bob contract, because we've heard it so much, and the contract does drag a player down, because if he doesn't equal it in the people's eyes, then he's a loser. He's a bust, or he's whatever. They almost take away his value as a person and an athlete. And that it doesn't work that way. It's just what people had to give him that number to keep them, or what they thought they had to give him to keep him. Negotiations are secret. You never know for sure how much more he got and what the next best offer was. The next best offer might have been 8, but maybe his agents convinced the Panthers that it was 10 or 9.9 or, So I'll be glad, because once they win the cup, if they win the cup, that now becomes a great contract forever. Because they won the cup. Every trade, every draft pick, every contract given becomes the right draft pick, the right trade, and the right contract. That's what I love for some of these teams and some of these athletes who win. It's a great contract if they win the cup.
We're going to take a quick pause of this conversation with myself and John Buccigross of ESPN to tell you guys all about Game Time. And Game Time makes getting NBA and Stanley Cup Final tickets even easier and faster. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off and puck drop. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, view from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA and Stanley Cup Final tickets. With last-minute deals, you can save up to 60% off buying tickets from sports, concert, comedy, theater, and more. And all-in pricing, toggling this feature shows you the total upfront with no surprises and fees at checkout. And the lowest price guarantee, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Yes. And when you listed of underpaid more than overpaid, you listed more of the underpaid stuff. Next year when we get to July 1, that could be very difficult for the Panthers. But even Anthony Stolarz, he's underpaid too, and he's probably the best, probably maybe one of the best goalie UFAs that's going to hit the open market, even though it's not a great market for goaltenders for them too. So also Evan Rodrigues, his shooting percentage is at 100% right now for the Stanley Cup Final. So 3 shots, 3 goals. I love that ESPN headline, Evan Almighty. Great movie.
Yes.
So, but even though I prefer Bruce Almighty, that it'll never top that one. But
no.
And it's funny. Also, there was one game-winning goal right before the All-Star break that Stolarz did not freeze the puck. He got it out to OEL, and then Evan Rodrigues and OEL got the game-winning goal. That specific goal was the offseason acquisition goal where everyone involved was a Bill Zito acquisition that season. So it's just all manifesting for him and what just he's done. So quickly, what is Bill Zito's best offseason move? Because honestly, there are no wrong answers for me.
Yeah, that's a good one. Like you said, there's so many. There weren't any big, huge ones. It was, Rodrigues obviously getting depth and then coming through. Obviously now here in the Cup Final, you don't know when that's going to happen. I like the OEL sign that you mentioned. It just gave them a little veteran, a really good skater, a little more, agility on the back end at a cheap price. Those are little sneaky moves like that really help. And just they've done a great job building their bottom six. Stenlin's just a good, hard player. Kyle Oposo is an inspirational leader that, you look at, he's not a drain. He's just a fountain of enthusiasm and integrity and respect. That only helps. It doesn't, you're not going to win. They're not going to win the cup because of Kyle Oposo, but those little things do add up. And they'll be so happy for him if he's able to raise that Stanley Cup. And those done just a really great job accumulating interesting, fun in characters too. I've always said that as we've gotten more analytical in sports and baseball and hockey and really every sport, but especially baseball and hockey, I think have been the most analytical. It's taken away some of the personality and the soul of the game, and that's important. Like personality is important. It's passion, it's emotion, it's energy, and especially hockey. Hockey's a blood sport. And baseball's not a blood sport. It's one-on-one. It takes courage to stand in a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. It takes courage to dive into a wall, and no doubt, and in toughness. But it's not a blood sport. It's a one-on-one mental task. You think the game. Hockey is just a blood sport where it's constant. It's a stick in your hand. There's a weapon. There's hard boards on the outside and glass. There's nowhere to go. Even football, eventually you just run out of space and you hit open air. It's not like where hockey has walls, and even the ice is so hard. So it's just a hard game played by hard dudes, and it's a blood sport. So you need those passionate guys, even Lomberg and obviously Kachuk, which changed the entire culture of the team. And Montour's a guy who runs hot and is a blood sport player. And you need guys, and they have a lot of them when you think about it. And that makes, because, Reinhart doesn't run hot. Verhaeghe doesn't run real hot. But then you got Bennett and Kachuk and all these guys. And I just think that the way they formulated the personality of the team is as much a story of the Panthers as anything.
Yeah, and just fitting into that identity and really the first move that Bill Zito made, just trading for Patrick Hornqvist, just really flipped so many things on just needing to be meaner, need to be harder to play against for him too. And that also, when you talk about offseason moves, you mentioned one of them of being a Kevin Stenlin. I hadn't mentioned this on my show yesterday, but he was 73% in the dot, and he's on that first PK unit for the Panthers too, and they're stopping Connor McDavid. And when also I want to go to the PK conversation where there's multiple guys just really up, 2-3 guys getting up on Connor McDavid whenever he's entering the zone, especially on the PK. We know what he needs to do. We know that he's a guy who's going to come in with speed too. And then when you're getting those draws and taking 15 seconds off the clock, I mean, that's really valuable too and then forcing them to the outside. I mean, when the Panthers go for a check, they're sitting right back again and letting Connor still circle around a little bit too. So what have you seen on the Panthers PK too that has really helped them just limit the time and space for the Oilers?
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I was thinking about that, where they don't attack McDavid, because he's going to get the puck no matter what you do. And like you said, then they just kind of let him skate around. Everybody else they attack, because Bouchard's kind of a heavy-footed, lackadaisical player. Draisaitl's very stationary on that, where he likes to shoot that one-timer. Hyman kind of rolls around the net. You don't have to chase him. Nugent Hopkins is not a dangerous shooter. You're not afraid of him shooting. And so as a result, you attack everybody except McDavid. Once he gets the puck, you retreat and clog everything up so he can't pass to somebody else, because that's what he wants to do first. He's a pass-first centerman. He's not a shooter. I contend if I'm the Edmonton Oilers and I'm talking to McDavid and their team on their power play is McDavid, you need to shoot every time you get the puck because there could be rebounds, there could be deflections, but he needs to think shoot because they're giving him room to shoot. They're not letting him make that backdoor pass to Hyman for the tap-in goal. They're not letting him get the one-timer to Draisaitl because Forsland's right in his face every time. He had one chance. He had one chance in game 2. He had a bad. Bob did come off the post a little bit, but it would have taken a perfect shot from Draisaitl off that bad angle shot that he likes to take as a left-hand shot on the right side. So, no, they're doing it. I really like their philosophy of attack everybody but lay off McDavid. And like you said, win the first face-off and ice it. And they don't have to kill 2 minutes in the power play. They have to kill 1:40. That's all they got to do. And so, because like you said, because Stenlund wins that first initial face-off. So that's the key. Certainly this Oiler power play could get going at home. And if they're going to, obviously, it all comes down to game 3, and then it makes for a real fun game 4 because, what's great about the series now is game 3 is a game 7. If Edmonton wins game 3, then game 4 is a game 7 again. Then game 5, not so much. You can lose game 5. It's okay. Both teams can lose game 5. Then game 6 becomes a game 7, and game 7 becomes a game 7. So that's why I really do want the Oilers to win game 3 because that'll make the series way more fun for us. I know the Panther fans, as a fan, you want them to win every game. You don't want any losses. Yeah. But from a hockey national broadcaster, again, in the end, I really don't care who wins. The Oilers GM, Kenny Holland's a good friend of mine. Keith Tkachuk, Matthew's dad's a real good friend of mine. I know how much he wants his family name on the cup. He never won the cup. But to see Matthew's name on the cup, have a Tkachuk on that, and that'll make him think about his dad, his granddad, his great-grand. Look, the Tkachuk family names on that's legacy. So I want Keith to experience that almost more than Matthew. It'll mean more to Keith right now, I guarantee you, and just it's a family win. And that's how Matthew will take it too. Matthew will look like winning the cup is not an individual achievement after the Panther. Obviously, it's a team achievement, but your name, it becomes somewhat individual then. Because you checked off that resume on your box for your career. But for Matthew, I know it'll feel like a family achievement, and which is really cool. So, and like I said, I would like to see McDavid win the cup. I don't like to see those athletes who are great and don't have the cup for so long or never win one. That's like a sports tragedy,
Yeah.
And so because of that, I root for the best drama. I want to watch these meaningful games, and plus I want to watch because there might be only 2 more hockey games left in the year, and then I get sad. I like to watch hockey, so I want as many as possible. But I think it really would be cool. Like I said, that's what's cool about if Edmonton wins game 3, then you start to have multiple game 7s because Edmonton still has to win game 4 or the series.
They're on their heels.
Yeah, they have to win 3 and 4 because once it's 3-0 or 3-1, the Panthers are not losing 3 in a row, or even I don't think they're going to lose 4 out of 5, which has to happen now. I don't think they're built to lose to anybody 4 out of 5. So they're in great shape.
We're going to take a quick pause of this conversation with our special guest, John Buccigross, to tell you guys all about Policy Genius. And a lot of life is unpredictable, but good life insurance plans give your family a financial safety net to protect against some of the unknowns. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It makes choosing the right policy for your family easy and quick. Policy Genius helps you easily compare your options from America's top insurers in just a few clicks. Your work life insurance policy may not offer enough protection for your family's needs. Policy Genius has no incentive to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance. Get peace of mind by finding the right life insurance with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com. Yeah, so yeah, we want the Panthers to win every game, but we know that not to expect that we expect that the Oilers are going to have some type of response. It's just the nature of sports. And honestly, for me, I don't want to go to watching the Panthers to watching the Marlins. So I do not want to go there. I'd like a little bit to extend that too. So hey, but either way, for the Panthers, just that going back to their penalty kill, I mean, and their overall defense, one high danger chance for the Oilers that game, so just incredible.
Yep.
And when they're laying back too, it also gives them that opportunity to block a shot too, especially with how up they are in the point too. Alexander Barkov leading game one in blocks too, just setting the example of just short shifts too. That's another thing. But I know you mentioned Aaron Ekblad earlier, but Jason Demers, former Panther, mentioned about how Aaron Ekblad has changed his game too. We knew how gifted he was offensively when he was coming out of Barrie, Windsor, Ontario native, going to Barrie for his junior hockey career, but also how he's changed it to his defense. It's crazy because also when you hear Stanley Cup Final and Aaron Ekblad just getting his first goal in the final, I'm like, wow, that's right. That is his first goal of the postseason. Because for me, just looking at it, I'm just not expecting Aaron. I'm not expecting because also Aaron Ekblad's been hasn't been on the power play for over a year now. He used to be on that left side taking one-timers under Brunette and even Quenneville before that too. But also what he's done in his game too defensively, it's not easy defending a Connor McDavid and being pinned in your end, but also how much support there is around those breakouts for the Panthers. I mean, got to be pleased for the Panthers. How are you seeing how Aaron Ekblad's change in his game?
You're right. Being a number one overall draft pick, and then you're put on, and that puts a lot of pressure. And then you get the big, and then so you want power play time. All young players want power play time because that's how you get paid. It bumps up your stats. You get to a certain category of offensive player because of the power play, which helps a lot. And then you get the big salary. When you don't get power play time, then that's a bit frustrating. That's probably one reason why Gustav Forsling settled on the contract that he did, because he's not a power play guy. Brendan Montour is. Now, I think next year, if they lose Montour, if they can't sign Reinhart and Montour, if Montour gets too high, somebody offers him $7.5 million, and they lose him, then you could see Forsling on the number one power play next year, and that would be a great, maybe. So Ekblad, so then once Ekblad gets that contract, he doesn't have to worry about money anymore. So now he doesn't have to be in the power play. I'm sure everyone wants to be because it's easy points, it's cupcake assists and things like that. And it's fun. It's fun to be in the power play. But now, like you said, he could just focus on being a shutdown defenseman. Again, he's not at his number, probably in the open market for what he does offensively and everything. And it's probably like around $6 million, around there. He's not where he is, but that's okay. He's got his money, and now he can just be a shutdown, right-handed shot guy. He's not in the power play. He's not to worry about that pressure, the extra ice time. He can just sit back and focus on, like you said, defending, checking. And that's what its primary job is anyway. So, once the NHL went to a one defenseman power play format, as it's evolved into that, I grew up, it was always two defensemen, preferably a right-handed shot and a left-handed shot. And then as the power play changed, that's why we have historic power play numbers now, because we have four really good offensive players and a defenseman who tends to be really good offensively now as well. So once that happened, now only one defenseman on the team gets the power play time. Then you get the other guy gets the crumbs, whether it's 30 seconds or 40 or sometimes 10 or sometimes a coach might just flip it after a minute because he didn't like what he saw. So Ekblad has really settled nice. I tell you, Mikkola, I was worried about him coming to the postseason, but he's really had a good postseason, really strong. Obviously, the gigantic goal, but he really has played a hard, confident, physical game. Not dumb, not clownish, not gong showish. Just a good, hard, physical game, and I really have been impressed with him.
Yeah, especially in when you think about what the Panthers had last year with like Radko Gudas, it's not necessarily about all the highlight reel hits. It's or committing too much to the strong side, where you leave one side open too for a breakaway opportunity. So less of that, even though less of that in game two, thankfully for the Panthers, and they adjusted that versus game one. Also, Jason Demers spoke about Alexander Barkov and just how he used to be in tracksuits after games, and also how he's adjusted that too after just the hard work paying off for Barkov. But with Paul Maurice being into the mix, I mean, the Panthers were not really much of did not transition into that rush team. They were that before, but 4 out of their 7 goals in the 2 games are off the rush too. So, it also just goes to show how much more the Panthers are trying to complete their game. It's not necessarily trying to take what the game's given to you, see what you have on your breakout with the support, and also see, but also for you, from your perspective, how great is it to see that even though their style of play is forechecking, that they're still able to be so opportunistic when it comes to the rush?
Yeah, well, certainly Edmonton will let you do that once you get going, and they're a good team to play that way against. And so, the Panthers have the horses to do that. Verhaeghe loves to play on the fly. Barkov has really upped his game. I was pretty critical of him early in his career in the playoffs. Was not a good playoff performer. Did
Yeah.
not score goals. But now it was so noticeable in the opening stanzas of the playoffs. You could see how physical and fast he was playing. He was welcoming contact. He was just going hard. Before, I don't know, just being too careful. Like, how do I play? I don't want to make a mistake. It might have been probably more than that than anything, or just not quite understanding how hard you have to go in the postseason. My guess is last year, the playoffs, he got a taste of it and realized, wow, this is what you got to do. You have to really play a maniacal game. It's just that's the cost. That's the toll. If you get hurt, like you did the other night, you get hurt. But the way he's upped his physical and just forceful game on his toes, and he can play off the rush too. We saw that amazing pass across to Verhaeghe in game one. Ceci got a piece of it, kind of bounced over, but Verhaeghe got a piece of it and it went in. So, no, they have the guys that, like you said, they can. And Sam Bennett's a great skater through the neutral zone. He's got speed. He's got agility. You can see why he was a first-round pick, a high first-round pick. Doesn't have the best hands, doesn't have a natural scoring touch. We've seen him wide open in front a couple times, just unable to settle the puck down, and slings it 10 feet wide like he did in game two. But overall, just what a hockey player he is, how fast and how hard he plays. And then he can, once in a while he gets hot, he can also start to score. So yeah, they're built for this. They can play off the rush. They can play that game. And like you said, and you look at their D, I mentioned, Larson bringing him in, the speed and Forsling skating ability. And then you just have the guys like Mikkola and Kulikov, who's basically a left-handed Gudas. He kind of filled that role really nicely and at a lot lower price than Gudas. And so, I can't believe Bill Zito didn't win the GM award. Everything he's done has been perfect, and it's been like a building of it. It's like, okay, he should win, not just even if someone had a better year, which I doubt. The fact that you take it in a 3-year increment, it's like, okay, then he should win this. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't get it. Just like with some of these coaches who don't win Coach of the Year. It's like at some point, that guy has to win a Coach of the Year. Look at it over 3 years or 2, or John Cooper's take in case, look at it over 10. He's the Coach of the Year based on, yeah. So that's how you look at these things. But I know he doesn't probably really care. He wants his name, Bill Zito, on the Stanley Cup, and it will be with 2 more wins. That's better than the GM award anytime.
Yes. And hey, Panthers fans definitely do feel validated for sure now that they're hearing it from a national perspective of Bill Zito and just how. But hey, I don't want to take anything away from Jim. No, that's not what I'm.
No, exactly. Yeah, they've done an amazing job. Absolutely, the way they build that organization with their drafting and the free agents.
2017 and 2021 for the Stars. What impressive drafts for both for the Dallas Stars there. So and also going back to Barkov, just how he was able to take advantage of David taking a wrong angle and then going on that 3-on-2, just wizardry by Alexander Barkov. And crazy thing, no goals from Tkachuk, Bennett, Barkov, nor Reinhart neither. And Panthers are still up in the series too. So very opportunistic for the Panthers and just their depth too for them. But one final thing that I want to get out of here with too is what should the Panthers expect for Edmonton's adjustments going into Game 3? Is it them loading up with the Draisaitl and McDavid? Is it more on the D pairings because we still don't know necessarily what's going on with Darnell Nurse? What are you thinking of what adjustments are you expecting Edmonton to make?
Yeah, they're kind of out of moves. Chris Knobloch has done a good job making the right move. We put Corey Perry back in, maybe. Probably, I would think for Game 3. Yeah, if Nurse can't go, then Ceci can come back in. I thought Desharnais was I think that was a good plug-in by him. It was that kind of game where he could be very forceful and hard, and he's fine with the puck, and he
Big
kills
man.
penalties. Big guy, so he's a good enforcer to have out there. So I think that was a good move. And they had the 1-0 lead. Everything he gave them a 1-0 lead in the third. They just couldn't get that second goal on the power play. It's on the players. You had plenty of power play chances to take a 2-0 lead. And he didn't get it done. So yeah, you can't put Draisaitl and McDavid together against the Panthers. They have too much depth. It thins them out. They become way too top heavy, especially with Barkov shutting down that line. And that's why it's going to take a lot of offense away from Barkov, because he has so much responsibilities defensively, and he takes them seriously. So his offense will always suffer a little bit. But no, I don't think Edmonton can do too much. They really just have to get a power play goal, at least one every game, and really two. And then get one equal strength goal and win 3-2 or 3-1, because they are a good checking. They become a good checking team with lots of speed and good size. So they just got to get the lead. They got to get preferably a 2-goal lead, and then and score in the power play. So it's very simple for Edmonton. The power play has to score goals. They don't have the 4-line depth to go 5-on-5 with the Panthers. They have to get probably 2 a game, but at least 1 a game, like I said, preferably 2. And then play great goal prevention hockey against the Panthers, who are not a great offensive team. The Panthers during the regular season, they were good. They were I think they were 11th or 12th offensive. Not like they were a top 10 offensive team. So you can have your chance to shut them down a little bit, but they have to get the lead. They have to be on the power play, and they have to get good goaltending from Stuart Skinner. He's always one game from a stinker. He seems to have one every series. And when you're down 2-0, and he hasn't really had the stinker yet. He's played pretty good, and they're down 0-2. He's got a stinker coming, Panther fans. It might work out well for you.
Yeah. You think game 1, the Panthers were mostly in their own end, and then a lot of people thinking, oh, the Panthers aren't going to play that like that again. Adjust. Edmonton hasn't had haven't given up a stinker.
Yep. Might be on the way.
Bob gave up one and still won.
Yep. So hockey's weird, man. Hockey's a weird game. It's impossible to predict. So different from one game to the next. There is no carryover. So, yeah, you just never know. But like I said, I really do hope – I don't care who wins the series, but I want Edmonton to win Game 3 just because that'll really give Game 4 all kinds of nervous juice, which is what we want as sports fans, and to sell. And in the end, I'm sure the Panthers can say, okay, if you can guarantee we'll win in 7, I'll take that more than a sweep, because I want more games. It's fun. It's fun to get excited. But just guarantee me that Game 7 win. I'll take it. Then I understand how that works. And when I was a kid, my favorite team, when they're up by 20 or up by 3 goals, I was nervous. If they're up 3-0, I'm still nervous until they win that board game. So I get it.
Yeah. And the Edmonton Oilers know that the Panthers will be going home anyway after Game 4, and so the Oilers are thinking, why not us go along with them? But for the Panthers, hey, one game at a time. That's their mindset. Just don't worry about Game 4 just yet. Just worry about Game 3. But John, I want to thank you so much once again for joining me on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for joining me. And hey, hopefully we are. Hopefully, even regardless of win or lose, we are going to see the Panthers on multiple nationally televised games. So can't wait to see on the call again for them.
Thanks, guys. Thanks so much. Don't forget, get your Melrose shirts, BucciOT.com. There you go, BucciOT.com. Panthers, 2 wins away from the Cup. I think you're going to get it. Not a big surprise. Great squad, great organization, and South Florida is my favorite place in the world. I'll be a resident soon, a couple more years.
and we are definitely hoping so. Thank you once again, and hope to talk to you soon.
Peace.